So in the aftermath of the DNC, RFK Jr. shook things up. So let's talk about it, because a lot of people started to, well, panic and go crazy. And you know what? I got to give it up for the people at BSDNC, because, you know, you guys are in your own reality at this point. I mean, does it come as no surprise why RFK Jr. did what he did? After all, getting the middle finger by the Democratic Party. And then, of course, the DNC, Joe Biden. Yes, Joe Biden's administration was doing everything possible to make sure that third parties wouldn't be on the debate stage or be on the ballot. And yes, he was even doing that to Donald Trump. So, okay. What better way to shake things up than take away Kamala's thunder, which is, again, politics. You got to be ready for that all the time, every time. So I want to pull up this video here, because this is how you know that we have unserious people in our media. The panic. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. Democratic operatives work directly to increase Robert F. Kennedy Jr. negatives. Because everything's negative. Look, there's a lot of negative things to say, but even then, BSDNC. Let's hear it.
And let me just also give some credit to my team here, right? This amazing team headed by Democratic legend Mary Beth Cahill, this genius strategist at DNC, Ramsey Reed, has been very much dedicated to informing Biden 2020 Democratic-leaning voters about everything about RFK Jr. and why they should not support him. And so we were very, very successful in driving his negatives up over the course of the campaign. When we started, he was at plus 14 positive. He's now at negative 21. Wow. Yeah.
Almost like what they did to Bernie Sanders, even though that cuck let that happen. Almost like how they've been doing this for years against progressives and independents. I wonder. It's like they're always doing that. Now, the thing is, the whole country was more or less taken back by this. I want to pull up this article here from Common Dreams. Critics say RFK Jr. just proved campaign was always a MAGA front designed to help Donald Trump win. Oh, my goodness gracious. After days of reporting and signals from the campaign, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Friday officially suspended his independent presidential run and endorsed the Republican nominee, far-right former President Donald Trump. That's right. Liberals are still crying into the mountains. In response to Kennedy suspending his campaign and backing Trump, 5 of his surviving siblings from his prominent Democrat political family, the dynasty, the Royal Kennedys, released a joint statement stressing that we believe Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. So there you go. So we believe, okay? We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride, they said. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values and our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story. Kennedy, a lawyer who first ran as a Democrat, was known earlier in his political career as an environmental for his environmental activism, but later became associated with spreading anti-vax conspiracy theories, taking a hard line against Palestinian rights, and downplaying the climate crisis. His campaign has been dodged by a series of bizarre revelations, including assault, harassment, a brainworm, and a dead baby bear. Okay. Be mature, kid. Come on. All right. My God. That bear story is insane. Everything else in here, though, I mean, RFK Jr. didn't do himself any favors. Kennedy's endorsements plans were revealed in a Pennsylvania court filing. While both the lawyer responsible for filing and spokesperson for the campaign initially told CNN that Kennedy had not endorsed Trump, he ultimately did so in Phoenix, Arizona. So, of course, now you have everybody saying that RFK Jr. is this big old threat. So let's go ahead and pull up this video here.
Despite being the only candidate in this race who has graced the cover of the Tortoise magazine, RFK Jr. probably won't be our next president. But for the deep-pocketed donors funding his effort to get on the ballot in key states, that's not really the plan. So what is the plan? And who exactly is bankrolling RFK Jr.'s presidential push? It turns out the answer has a lot more to do with Trump than putting a Kennedy back in the White House. Kennedy. Maybe you missed it amidst the chaos of your MAGA uncle complaining about Taylor Swift, but that RFK Jr. ad definitely aired during the Super Bowl. The 30-second commercial was not paid for by RFK Jr.'s campaign. He actually had nothing to do with it. In fact, after it aired, he turned to Twitter to express regret and offer apologies to his own family members, some of whom felt that it marred the family's legacy. So who actually paid for this ad?
American Values 2024 is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
American Values 2024, the super PAC backing Kennedy, dropped a cool $7 million for the spot, which about 124 million people saw, or 124 million more eyeballs than that magazine about turtles ever got. And propping up American Values 2024 is a large group of big donors. Kennedy is just the face emerging from the trench coat, but he's on the shoulders of a bunch of millionaires and billionaires who are driven by one goal: to get RFK Jr. on the ballot in all key states across the country. Doing a majority of the legwork here is the super PAC's biggest donor, Timothy Mellon. In fact, more than half of the $38 million raised by American Values this cycle has come from Timothy Mellon alone. So what's his deal? Does he have a track record of trying to get longtime Democratic falconers turned independent anti-vaxxers into the Oval Office? Well, not exactly. Mellon, who hails from the 34th richest family in America and likened anti-poverty programs to...
Well said, Prim54. The ad only cost so much because it was a Super Bowl ad. And for those who don't know, those Super Bowl ads are very pricey. I remember at one point people were excited to see them, but now they're so overhyped in Hollywood production that whatever value they once had or entertainment, you are able to find better stuff on social media for less of a cost. Now, I want to be clear on this. There are super PACs out there, and there are organizations and groups that will do things in favor for a candidate that the candidate will not endorse or sign on, because that's what happens when you have a Supreme Court, Democrats and Republicans, that decide to make legalized bribery, corruption, a thing where our politicians can be bought and those with the most money have the loudest voice. So on the one hand, how can RFK Jr. stop something that is understandably out of his control? I want to pull up this video here that caused everyone to lose their ability to think critically, especially the Democrats.
For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in. They put up rules. I've never seen rules like he had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth? And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got...
Yeah, yo, Mama's So Fat 77. I didn't like it. Yes, he hurt my feelings. I didn't like it. Trump, that's what you do 24/7. And of course, we got Cobra Commander says Trump got this, which, it. I wouldn't say it's in the bag, but Trump did get a boost. Now, RFK Jr., from what we've covered here, his campaign was dedicated in the Democratic primary to try and get the nomination. But again, I'm going to say the same thing that I would have said to the non-existent candidate, Fat Tony, a.k.a. Cenk Uygur, Crystal Ball Lady, Marianne Williamson, a guy who can make your dick fall off because every time he talks, he's boring as hell, Dean Phillips. And yes, even you, RFK Jr., running in the Democratic primary was and always will be and forevermore will be a waste of time, because if the establishment doesn't like you, you ain't going nowhere. A fair process. You have a better process in the Republican primary because at least they don't have super delegates, okay? and they don't have an establishment perspective. Now, yes, there is establishment there, but it's abundantly clear that you have the ability to pick who you want in a Republican primary than you do in a Democratic primary. And he was serious on it. Same thing too as running as an independent. But anyone that's saying that this was a great conspiracy to help Trump from the very beginning, proof and evidence, because a lot of money was spent. A lot of capital and energy was spent on doing so. And this is one of the dangers of running as a third party or independent candidate, and that is there's always a cost. But then again, Democrats, you treat people the way you want to be treated. So if you're going to be treating everyone that doesn't support Kamala like crap, or the Democrats, anyone like that, like crap, well, then you're going to be treated crap right back. Simple as that.
That applause like he just got, I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that. It's amazing. It's thrilling. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you.
Now, I also want to pull this up here too. I also want to pull this up here as well, because RFK Jr. did give some commentary on corporate media, Fox News on Sunday, which seemed to have dominated the headlines. If you're a Kamala Harris supporter, too bad, so sad. That's yesterday's news.
President Trump had been reaching out to me, and I talked to him a few hours after the assassination attempt, and we had a long conversation by phone. I then had 2 extensive meetings, and there were issues, the broader issues that were most important to me, the ones that brought me into the campaign, which was ending the Ukraine war, ending the censorship, and protecting children's health. We're all reforming our food supply, all the things that we need to do to make our children healthy again. Those are all things that President Trump also wanted to work on. And he invited me to form a unity government. We agreed that we'd be able to continue to criticize each other on issues on which we don't agree. But these issues are so important in their way of unifying our country. We need in this country to reach a point where we love our children more than we hate each other.
So let's talk about this a little bit further. This is from RT, just to trigger the libs. By the way, Mouse, if I hope young people understand how huge this is, the sides flipping and these two going up against the Democrats. Now, again, I'm not going to dismiss this. RFK Jr. doing this is a game changer. How much this will affect Trump further on down the road will be seen. But no matter what happens right now, this is a tight race, and I will call it 50-50. But I dismiss the notion that this is a one big conspiracy of, oh, this was how it was supposed to be from the beginning. No, this all could have been avoided, Democrats, if maybe you had a free and fair democratic process. Look at you, Bernie, you nutless wonder. You could have actually said something, but you didn't, because he's too much of a coward to say anything. But when you have a process and a system and a media entities out there that do everything they can to control the narrative, well, then it's abundantly clear why nothing will fundamentally change. And I, for one, will have to say there's only so long Democrats can learn the lesson. If you look at how many times that they've been interrupted and called out and confronted by protesters and activists, it's clear to me, as it should be clear to everyone else, that a Democratic Party has an idea of what it wants its voters to be: silent and obedient. And no one needs to challenge the party's decision into who will be their nominee. That's very authoritarianism of a party that claims to care about democracy. Now, no point in time is Trump better than the Democrats. I mean, I look at both parties, both candidates as one and the same, part of the same six system. Now, I don't want to see the president of the United States fail. No, I want to see the president succeed because guess what? If the president screws up, we're all kind of boned. But oh, wait, the presidents have been screwing up for decades, be they Democrat or Republican. Let's look at the front and center issue, the economy. How's the economy treating you? Hey, I could ask that old school Coca-Cola question, how's it treating you? But for the most part, you, my audience, have said, please stop because the economy sucks. The economy sucks. The economy sucks. And how can we have a fair society, a decent society, if everyone's going homeless, small businesses are boarding up, and everyone's going broke? And I don't see any policies on Kamala Harris's webpage. But to give the counter, you see policies on RFK Jr.'s webpage, and you sure as hell see policies and platforms on Donald Trump's page. So let's talk about a little bit more about this before we end this segment. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has accepted the endorsement of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has said he will end his independent run for office in swing states. Now, as I talked with Larry Sharp earlier, again, he'll do everything he can, but each of the parties run their states differently. Illinois is a whole bag of worms right there. So there you go. Hours after making the announcement on Friday, 70-year-old RFK Jr. joined Trump on the stage during the Republican presidential candidate's rally in Glendale, Arizona. Kennedy said that Trump will make America healthy again. Okay. And be a president who is going to protect us against totalitarianism. Okay, well, both parties are one and the same on that, okay? But whatever. Trump embraced and thanked Kennedy for his support and stated that his father, U.S. Senator Robert Kennedy, and his uncle, John F. Kennedy, would be very, very proud of Bobby. I am proud of Bobby, Trump said, and the whole crowd chanted, Bobby, Bobby, Bobby. The former president vowed that if he wins the election in November in honor of RFK Jr., he would establish a new independent commission on presidential assassination attempts that would be tasked with releasing all remaining documents pertaining to the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy, conduct an investigation into the attempt last month on Trump's own life. Because that was unheard of. And I'm very glad that Trump literally dodged the bullet. The Republican candidate has also applauded RFK Jr.'s decades of work as an advocate for health of our families and our children. A panel of top experts that Trump would work with Kennedy to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases. It's in the food. It's in the water. It's in the food. It's in the water. It's in the water. It's in the food. And it's because of corporations and lack of regulations and lack of accountability and how these lobby groups buy off our politicians to look the other way. Fast food is poisoning us. There's lead in our drinking water. Hell, there's all sorts of chemicals in our drinking water. Hardlands Media did not one, but two documentaries covering, the industrial polluters in Indiana and how they're dumping regulated toxic waste into Lake Michigan. Just for giggles, I'm going to post two of those videos, those two documentaries that we did, and share it with all of you. So that way, at least they get a couple more views because, again, folks, nothing has changed that much. And what is regulated toxic waste? Well, imagine you have a jug of toxic. We got 2 gallons of empty gallons of milk in your hands, right? You got one that's filled with toxic waste, the other one that's filled with water. Put them in a bucket. Okay, water's with the toxic waste, and then you huck it off into a bigger body of water, and the poison's all gone. That's not how dissolution works. That's not how you get rid of toxic waste. That's why I don't go swimming in Lake Michigan anymore. And if I do, I'm going to make sure I'm further away from the great state of Indiana. I love you, Indiana. But there's just some stuff that you're putting in your water that ain't good, okay? It's not good. It's not good. A former Democrat, Kennedy, tried last year to challenge U.S. President Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. However, after facing obstruction within the party, he announced a third-party bid last October. On Friday, he announced he would partially withdraw from the race, having previously vowed to do so if he felt that he'd be turned into a spoiler candidate, which is a dumb response. There's no such thing as a spoiler candidate, and you can't spoil something that's already rotten and turned into a pile of bones. In my heart, I no longer believe I have a realistic path to electoral victory, he said, announcing that he will remove his name from the ballots in swing states while continuing to run in solidly, sorry for that, red or blue states, so that his supporters can still cast a vote for him without harming or helping anyone. Now, folks, I don't know how this entire election cycle will play out or who will be part of Trump's campaign. But the Democrats did themselves no favors, especially on the warpath, to silence, well, critics or people that want to change things. Now, RFK Jr., running in the Democratic primary, as well as his association with Rabbi Shmuley. I mean, that's a kiss of death for me right there, because I'm not going to support somebody that's, well, all in for, well, the apartheid actions in Gaza. But I do want to pull up this video here of Chicago's very own Jimmy Dore. I want to play this video here.
This is amazing what's happening here. So this is amazing. They got a Kennedy. That the Democratic Party is so corrupt. The Democratic Party is so fascistic, so anti-democratic, that they got Bobby Kennedy to endorse a Republican for president. That's how bad the Democratic Party is. And they're in collusion with the corporate media. The Democratic Party is the establishment party now. And they're in bed with the media. And the media is covering for them. They told you Joe Biden was fine up until 5 minutes ago. They all lied to you. The media, I mean. They're all cheap fakes. And this, you guys are conspiracy theorists. CNN is the liars. CNN is the conspiracy theorists. CNN are the evil. The MSNBC, the ABC News, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they're evil. And they're bought by the people who don't give a shit about you. It's all smoke and mirrors. All of it. So this is groundbreaking what's happening in politics right now. These Republicans cheering a populist message that you would think was supposed to come from the Democratic Party, but it ain't. It's coming from the Republicans. Crazy. People are asking, am I really falling for this? What do you mean falling? What does that mean? Well, at least they're saying it. First of all, I certainly trust. The people are saying, can you trust what they're saying? I trust Bobby Kennedy, what he's saying. Certainly. I do. Trump didn't start any wars. He's the only president that didn't start any wars. And the deep state tried to kill him. So I made that point on Benny Johnson's show last night. You say what you want. They're not trying to kill Joe Biden. They're not trying to kill Kamala Harris. They are trying to kill Trump. And why is that? Because Trump has the naive idea that the president should control the intelligence community and the president should control the oh, hi, baby. And the president should control the military. That's what Trump thinks. So then you realize that no president has controlled the military since JFK. None of them. And Trump thought the president should. And that's why they're trying to kill him. So you can't deny that. So it's not about falling. What do you mean fall? I just saw a stadium full of Republicans cheering for environmental policy, cheering for freedom of speech, cheering for ending wars. Are you going to fall for that? You think all the people in that crowd are lying? You don't think they're genuinely enthusiastic? Because they are. So that's a populist message. And if I had more time, I would go to show you the video that Glenn Greenwald did where he discussed the difference between Trump Republicans and establishment Republicans.
Now, I want to stop right here. Notoriously, I get where Jim Jam is coming from, but it looks like Israel is still going to win with Trump and Bobby. So, yeah, there's a lot of problems with Trump and Bobby, especially being close to the apartheid government. But the one thing that I think we need to really look at is the reaction, the knee-jerk reaction by corporate media towards this. Now, again, I would compare U.S. politics to wrestling, and that's not fair to wrestling because at least the storylines are far more impactful than what the politicians in Washington, D.C. are doing to us. But this is important. And that crowd of people, that's a huge stadium that was filled up. I could say this was absolute pride, confidence, and arrogance. That Kamala Harris can't do that. And no, the DNC convention does not count because that's a convention. It's supposed to be filled up with Democrat sycophants, just like how the Republican convention was filled up with Republican sycophants. But to be clear here, Trump's been doing that, filling up stadiums and crowds of people, and those crowds are going to get larger and larger with the people that he's bringing in to him. Now, again, it doesn't matter who sits in the White House. I do want to see the president of the United States succeed, but what does the office of president really mean? Is it Caesar? Is it the king? Is it the Pope? Is he truly the end-all be-all, the true commander-in-chief? The answer is no. We have donors and establishment bigwigs that get to dictate policy. Now, maybe Trump wants to control the intelligence community and the military. All right, fine. Fine, whatever. I mean, at this point, if that's what he wants to believe in, fine. But if he thinks, and if he hasn't learned his lesson the first time, that, the president's going to be controlling everything, no. The system in place is run by a committee of sociopaths, a committee that control Wall Street, the big banks, corporations, the top 1%. No matter who sits on the throne, Goldman Sachs has the final say. Now, maybe Trump will do something different this time around. But if that's the case, if he's really going to do something different, well, there are consequences and actions to this. Maybe this is the last hurrah of the last election here in the United States. Maybe that's what we're looking at. But RFK Jr. doing this, ending his campaign, suspending his campaign to be more precise, and endorsing Trump, it will cause the Democrats to react in a childish, immature manner because they're revealing how they act. We saw how CNN and MSNBC dismissed RFK Jr.'s speech. We saw how the Democrats, as I played in the first video of this segment, how the Democrats purposely do a smear campaign to silence and suppress those that go up against the narrative. This is the fight that we have to be concerned about because it doesn't matter who becomes president. The thing that we need to know now, and I need to really seriously ask those that really believe in it, are we really committed to be uncommitted to the two-party system? Now, I'm not going to vote for Trump, and I sure as hell I'm not going to vote for Harris. But in my opinion, this is how Trump can secure himself into the White House by having Bobby's support. And I think this is only the beginning of how the Democrats are going to panic. And now Kamala Harris, as a Democrat, is now going to have to step up. And we've seen Kamala Harris speak. We've seen how Kamala Harris responds to issues. This election cycle will intensify. But I don't think we have to, dismiss everything that we saw over the weekend. This is a lightning in the bottle kind of moment in which Trump can capitalize on. And this all could have been avoided. All of this could have been avoided. Democrats. That's right, because a lot of Democrats suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. If you actually had a free and fair primary process and got rid of superdelegates. But oh, wait, you didn't do that, which is why we're here now. So all of this fear and panic about RFK Jr. and Trump. Remember, folks, the Democratic Party and the bigwigs did it to themselves. And that's the one lesson I want all of you to take away from this. No one can do you in like you can do yourself in, Democrats. And you are spectacular at, shooting yourselves in the foot. So keep at it. But we'll see what happens later on this week, especially as now we're seeing Trump and Kamala become the two front head people to face off against each other in this election. What this means for the future of third parties and independents, unfortunately, it looks like we're still going to have to play the waiting game.